They were way too confident about who they thought you were, and now your energy is starting to unsettle them quietly, not because you became someone else, because they're finally seeing the parts of you they ignored at first. Hey family, come sit with me for a minute because this reading already feels heavy emotionally. Somebody around you is trying to stay composed on the outside while internally, something about you keeps pulling at them harder than they expected. And the first message coming through explains exactly where this started. They smiled at you like they understood you already, like your softness made you simple. But the whole time, something deeper was happening underneath their surface confidence. This person thought they could emotionally read you fast, place you into a category, and move on comfortably. Yet every interaction afterward started confusing them more instead of clarifying you. Your calmness unsettled them because it never matched the assumptions they made in the beginning. You stayed observant while they stayed arrogant emotionally. And I remember sitting with that exact feeling, watching someone shrink their whole idea of me down to one small moment they barely paid attention to, kept replaying inside them quietly. And the more they watched you remain composed, the more embarrassed they became about their first impression. Because your energy was never weak, it was controlled. That realization shifted the entire dynamic emotionally, and now they replay conversations with you differently inside their mind constantly. This person genuinely believed emotional pressure would work on you eventually. They thought distance, inconsistency, silence, or mixed signals would make you chase clarity harder. Instead, something unexpected happened. You pulled your energy inward calmly and started protecting your peace differently. That reaction completely disrupted their emotional expectations. They are used to people over-explaining themselves emotionally when tension appears. But you became quieter instead, not passive, not defeated, just emotionally aware. And honestly, that awareness made them nervous because now they cannot predict your reactions easily anymore. And that is the part nobody tells you about getting quieter. Your silence starts speaking a language louder than anything you ever said out loud before, became the uncomfortable question sitting inside them afterward. Your restraint emotionally humbled this person more than any argument could have, because now they understand you are capable of walking away silently if your spirit stops feeling emotionally safe somewhere. The version of you they first imagined no longer exists in their mind. At first, they saw someone sweet, emotionally open, maybe even too forgiving. But over time, another layer started revealing itself naturally. Your standards became visible. Your discernment became visible. Your emotional intelligence became impossible for them to ignore anymore. That shocked them deeply because they expected softness without boundaries attached to it. Instead, they discovered somebody capable of loving deeply without losing themselves completely. That changed their attraction toward you entirely. Now, this connection feels emotionally heavier for them because they are realizing your calm exterior hides enormous emotional depth underneath. And honestly, that depth intimidates them sometimes. And I think about how long I carried all of that depth quietly, never performing it, just living inside it while people only saw the surface. Became something they slowly started understanding through observation alone. The more they learn about you emotionally, the more seriously they take your energy now. Something about your presence naturally exposed emotional inconsistencies inside this person. You never had to accuse them directly, never had to interrogate them emotionally. Yet around you, their masks started slipping anyway. Their confidence became shakier, their emotional control became harder to maintain, and this person absolutely feels that shift happening internally. Because your intuition picks up emotional truth faster than they expected. That realization made them hyper-aware around you. Suddenly, they started wondering if you could already sense their jealousy, attraction, fear, or emotional confusion underneath their surface behavior. And truthfully, I have always been able to feel the difference between somebody being real and somebody just being really good at performing realness around me. It became part of their inner conflict afterward. They may still act composed outwardly, but internally, they feel emotionally exposed by you. And strangely enough, that vulnerability both scares them and pulls them closer to your energy at the exact same time. The moment your energy stopped reaching toward them emotionally, everything shifted. This person may not openly admit it, but they became deeply affected by your emotional withdrawal. Your silence started feeling louder than words. Your absence became emotionally noticeable everywhere. They kept expecting you to react the old way, to reopen conversations emotionally, to make access easier again. But instead, they felt distance growing naturally between you both. That emotional space forced them into self-reflection they were not prepared for initially, because now they had time to realize how emotionally attached they already became to your energy quietly. And I know what that moment feels like personally, when you finally stop reaching and the whole room shifts like something invisible just changed the temperature, started hitting them unexpectedly during ordinary moments. And honestly, they did not realize your presence carried this much emotional weight in their life until your energy became less available to them suddenly. This person's emotional confidence started collapsing slowly once they realized they could actually lose access to you. At first, they thought they had endless time to figure things out, endless chances to keep observing quietly without fully stepping forward emotionally. But something changed when your energy became less emotionally responsive toward them. Their inner world became restless afterward. They started overthinking conversations, replaying your reactions, wondering if somebody else was receiving the emotional warmth they secretly wanted for themselves. And honestly, that fear hit their ego harder than expected, because underneath all their emotional hesitation was attachment growing quietly the entire time. And that is the quiet panic nobody talks about. Realizing you spent so much time playing it cool that you accidentally played yourself completely out of something real. Became an uncomfortable realization, surfacing repeatedly inside them. Now their emotional distance feels less like control and more like panic disguised as silence, while they secretly struggle to regain emotional balance around your energy. They honestly believed you would keep emotionally understanding them forever. Every mixed signal, every delayed response, every confusing action slowly became normal to them because you stayed patient longer than most people would have. But what they failed to notice was your spirit getting tired quietly underneath it all. You stopped reacting the same way. You stopped emotionally reaching first. And that shift hit them harder than any argument ever could. And I have been that person who stayed patient way past the point where patience was even serving me anymore, just quietly absorbing everything until one day I simply had nothing left to give. Keep sitting inside their mind now, because your energy no longer moves toward them carelessly. Now it pauses, now it studies, now it protects itself first. And this person absolutely feels that emotional difference every single time they think about you lately. What scares them most is realizing they caused this distance themselves. They pushed somebody soft into becoming emotionally guarded, and now they are secretly grieving the warmth they once took for granted around them. This person thought they would always stay emotionally safer than you in this connection. They believed they had more emotional control, more emotional distance, maybe even more emotional power overall. But the connection reversed unexpectedly, and now they are the one constantly thinking about you when nobody else is around. They are the ones secretly replaying conversations and energy shifts late at night. And honestly, that reversal is something I had to sit with too, realizing the person I thought I had figured out was quietly the one who had been holding all the emotional cards the entire time. Keeps echoing inside them quietly. And honestly, that realization bruised their ego badly because they underestimated how deeply your energy would stay with them mentally. Your calmness humbled them more than emotional chaos ever could have. You never forced yourself emotionally into their life. You simply existed with depth, awareness, and emotional presence, and somehow that became impossible for them to emotionally ignore afterward. Now, the person they misjudged became the person emotionally lingering inside their thoughts every single day. Your energy keeps returning to this person mentally during random moments throughout their day. It is not only attraction anymore, it feels emotionally attached now. A certain song plays, and suddenly they think about you again. Somebody says something small, and your energy crosses their mind immediately afterward. Even quiet moments before sleeping somehow bring your presence back into their thoughts unexpectedly. And I genuinely believe some people get so woven into your nervous system that even the most ordinary moments start carrying their energy around with them everywhere you go. It is becoming harder for them to emotionally dismiss now. And honestly, this frustrates them because they originally expected you to become temporary in their life. Instead, you became emotionally unforgettable. They replay your reactions differently now. Your eyes, your silence, your emotional distance, everything feels more important after realizing they misunderstood you in the beginning. Now, your energy lingers in their thoughts far longer than they ever expected, and secretly, that emotional attachment keeps getting stronger instead of weaker over time. This person may have tried distracting themselves emotionally at first, keeping busy, talking to other people, acting normal outwardly. But no matter how much they attempted to move around the feeling, something about your energy stayed emotionally unmatched inside them. That is what started bothering them quietly. Because now they compare other interactions to the emotional depth they feel around you, and nothing fully lands the same anymore. And that comparison is honestly one of the most humbling feelings a person can experience. Going out looking for something and coming back, realizing what they left behind had no real replacement anywhere, keeps crossing their mind unexpectedly. And honestly, that realization scares them because they originally believed they could emotionally detach whenever they wanted. But your presence became harder to shake than they expected. It is not just attraction holding them either. It is the emotional awareness they feel around you. The way you notice things without needing long explanations. The way your energy feels calm but emotionally powerful underneath. Now they are realizing your presence affected them more deeply than they admitted in the beginning. This person carried themselves with emotional confidence at first, maybe even too much confidence. They acted like they understood the situation fully or like they could emotionally control the connection whenever they wanted. But underneath that surface energy was insecurity they did not expect you to notice. And honestly, your emotional awareness started cracking through that image naturally. And I know that feeling too, of watching someone's whole carefully built image start quietly unraveling the moment they realized their usual emotional armor was not working the way they always counted on before. Became part of their inner conflict afterward, because your energy made it difficult for them to hide behind pride completely. Suddenly, their usual emotional tricks stopped working the same way. Their distance stopped feeling powerful. Their silence stopped feeling emotionally safe. Everything became heavier internally because they could feel you seeing deeper than the image they tried presenting outwardly. And that realization slowly humbled them emotionally in ways they are still processing privately now. The moment your energy stopped emotionally surrounding them the same way, this person started feeling the emptiness immediately. At first, they tried ignoring it. They convinced themselves it was temporary or not important emotionally, but over time, your absence became impossible for them to mentally avoid anymore. Certain moments started feeling incomplete without your warmth around them. And absence really does have its own specific weight, not like something missing, but more like a presence in itself that follows you into every quiet room you walk into alone. It keeps echoing internally now. And honestly, they did not fully appreciate your emotional presence until they felt the distance themselves. Your silence carries emotional weight for this person now because they know something shifted spiritually between you both. The easy emotional access they once assumed would always exist suddenly feels uncertain. And that uncertainty has them thinking about you far more deeply than they openly admit to anyone around them lately. Something inside this person noticed the exact moment your spirit emotionally stepped backward from them. Even if you never announced it directly, they felt the energetic change immediately. Your warmth became more careful. Your openness became more guarded. And honestly, that emotional shift unsettled them more than they expected possible. And that backing away is never dramatic or loud. It is the quietest thing in the world, just a slow, careful folding inward that the right person will absolutely feel without a single word being spoken. Keeps replaying quietly inside their mind now. Because before, your energy naturally reached toward them without hesitation. Now it pauses first. Now it protects itself first. That difference emotionally shook this person deeply. They may still act calm outwardly, but internally they know your spirit no longer feels fully safe around their inconsistent behavior anymore. What makes this harder emotionally is knowing they slowly caused the distance themselves through confusion and inconsistency. Now your energy feels emotionally farther away than before, and they secretly struggle with that realization daily. This person genuinely thought they could control the emotional pace of this connection from beginning to end. They believed they could decide when to care, when to pull back, when to emotionally engage, and when to disappear quietly. But slowly, the connection stopped following their expectations completely. Now they are emotionally reacting to you in ways they cannot fully manage anymore. And losing that kind of emotional control is genuinely one of the most disorienting experiences, because suddenly you are living inside a feeling instead of standing safely outside it, watching from a comfortable distance. Became part of their emotional conflict afterward. Because suddenly your silence affects them. Your distance affects them. Even your calm energy affects them emotionally now. And honestly, losing that emotional control bruised their ego badly. They are not used to somebody quietly shifting their emotional balance this strongly without even trying. Now they secretly replay your energy far more than they originally expected, and that emotional attachment keeps growing heavier internally lately. This person watches you more carefully now than they ever did in the beginning. At first, they thought they understood you quickly, but now they realize there are emotional layers inside you they completely missed before. So lately, they have been paying attention differently. Your reactions, your silence, your emotional boundaries, the way your energy changes around certain people. And I find it interesting how the people who once glanced over you carelessly are always the same ones who eventually start watching your every move, like they are trying to memorize something they almost let slip away permanently. Keeps crossing their mind quietly. And honestly, this emotional curiosity keeps growing stronger the more they observe you. Because every time they think they finally understand your energy fully, another emotional layer reveals itself naturally. That mystery emotionally pulls them in deeper instead of pushing them away. Now they are trying to emotionally understand the very person they once underestimated too quickly, and that realization keeps emotionally humbling them more over time. What started intimidating this person was not anger. It was your emotional calmness, the way you stopped over-explaining yourself emotionally. The way you could quietly step back without creating chaos or begging for understanding. That shift affected them far more deeply than they expected, because now your silence feels intentional instead of emotionally confused. And there is something deeply powerful about a person who no longer feels the need to perform their emotions for anyone, who just exists in their own energy quietly and lets that speak for itself completely. Keeps sitting inside their thoughts lately. And honestly, they are not used to somebody carrying this kind of quiet, emotional strength naturally. Your calm energy makes them feel emotionally observed, even during simple interactions. That emotional pressure unsettles them because they know you are no longer emotionally available for inconsistent behavior the same way you once were before. Now, every small reaction from you feels emotionally important to them because they are scared your spirit is slowly becoming less emotionally attached overall. This person originally mistook your kindness for emotional weakness. They thought your patience meant you would endlessly tolerate confusion, mixed signals, emotional distance, or half-hearted behavior without eventually changing. But over time, they realized something important about you. Your softness has boundaries attached to it emotionally. And I think the most misunderstood thing about gentle people is that their gentleness was never an invitation for mistreatment. It was always a reflection of their own emotional standards, showing up in the softest way possible first, became part of their realization later. Because once your energy started protecting itself differently, the entire emotional dynamic shifted between you both. Suddenly, they became the uncertain one emotionally. They became the one wondering whether you still cared the same way anymore. And honestly, that reversal humbled them deeply because they never expected your emotional strength to appear this quietly but this powerfully around them. Now they understand your calmness was never weakness. It was emotional maturity mixed with restraint the whole time, and realizing that changed how seriously they view your energy now. This person expected emotional comfort from the connection at first, but instead they ended up confronting parts of themselves they usually avoid emotionally. Your energy started creating emotional pressure inside them naturally, pressure to be honest, pressure to stop emotionally hiding, pressure to admit feelings they originally tried dismissing casually at first. And that kind of pressure is not something you create on purpose. It just happens naturally, when your energy is grounded enough that people around you suddenly have nowhere left to hide from their own truth. Keeps replaying inside them quietly now. And honestly, that pressure keeps growing the longer they stay emotionally silent around you. Because your energy no longer accepts surface-level behavior comfortably anymore. Now they feel like they either have to emotionally step forward honestly or risk losing access to you completely. That realization weighs heavily on them internally because they know your energy is slowly becoming less emotionally available to confusion, delays, and mixed signals. And secretly, they are scared they waited too long to emotionally come toward you the right way. This person tried holding on to emotional pride for as long as possible around this connection. They kept acting calmer than they actually felt internally. They kept pretending your energy was not affecting them this deeply. But over time, that emotional control slowly started breaking apart. Because no matter how much they tried staying detached mentally, your presence kept emotionally pulling them back inward. And pride is a strange thing because it convinces you that you are protecting yourself, when really it is just quietly costing you everything that actually mattered the most to you underneath all of it. Became harder for them to ignore quietly. And honestly, their pride could not fully survive the emotional realization that they underestimated somebody who now emotionally occupies their thoughts constantly. That realization humbled them deeply because they are used to feeling emotionally in control around people. With you, that control started slipping naturally. Now they secretly feel more emotionally attached than they originally planned, and admitting that internally has been extremely difficult for their ego lately. This person's ego genuinely believed they understood you too quickly in the beginning. They thought your calmness made you emotionally simple. They thought your kindness meant you would always remain emotionally available, no matter how inconsistent they acted. But slowly, reality started correcting those assumptions one by one. And I think the most powerful correction life can give somebody is not an argument or a confrontation, but simply allowing them to watch you unbothered, whole, and completely at peace without them until the truth of what they underestimated finally lands, became the emotional truth they can no longer ignore now. Because over time, they realized your softness was never weakness. Your silence was never confusion. Your emotional patience was never lack of awareness. And honestly, that realization completely shifted how they see you now. They view you with far more emotional respect than before because your energy forced them into self-awareness naturally. Now they understand something important emotionally. You were never asking to be chosen desperately. You were simply waiting to see who was emotionally mature enough to recognize your value correctly from the start. The strongest thing about your energy right now is that you no longer need to prove your value to be felt. Somebody already feels the difference. If this reading resonated deeply, let me know in the comments because I love seeing how these messages find the right people at the right time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe before you leave. And if this reading stayed with you emotionally, super thanks truly helps support the channel and future readings. I'll see you in the next one, beautiful soul.